everyone. We're still trying to fix our computer. Okay, wait a sec. I don't think it's going to work. So we just have to look at the camera. Sorry guys, we're doing our best. Okay, you can move over a little bit. So tonight we want to talk about childhood traumas and child abuse prevention, because April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and of course this is a huge issue in our society. And Pete and I know these issues very, very well because, well, we've been children ourselves, then we've had 6 children ourselves, and we've got grandchildren, and we've also worked with probably close to 20,000 people one-on-one and in groups as well over the last 20 years. And from that we've realized that your childhood or inner child issues are often at the root cause of our problems that we face today. And these problems can show up as physical problems, and they can of course show up as relationship issues as well. They often cause a lot of tension and friction in your closest relationships, your relationship with yourself, of course, which is reflected on how you are with your bestie and your children. So Pete, do you want to say something like that?
Often when a trauma has been experienced in childhood, there's a part split off from the whole, and sometimes you may have noticed people, even people close to you, their personality changes a little bit at times when they're perhaps under stress, and that's them going into one of those parts. And we've probably all got numerous parts. Grada often asks me, what part are you in now?
Yeah.
Because, we've all suffered traumas. There's physical trauma that children suffer.
That's often probably the most obvious one would be a physical trauma, because you can see it. The child often has bruises or injuries.
But then there's physical neglect, where they've had their caregiver fails to give them the basic needs of food, warmth, clothing, and they neglect it. Then there's emotional abuse, where they can be lied to, gaslighted, emotional manipulation.
And that's a lot harder to figure out. So the emotional abuse really gets the person tangled up inside themselves, and I call it tortured love.
And often children, when they are young, they figure out quite quickly how to tell lies, because if they tell the truth, they often got into trouble for it. Mm-hmm. And so they got a smack. So they tell lies, so to avoid pain and to keep the love and affection of their parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then of course there can be major traumas, like the loss of your mother or father or a primary caregiver, or parents separate. And of course then there are other things like if you're in a country where there is war, or earthquakes and traumas like that. So out of all of these, sexual abuse, sexual trauma is probably the most damaging, and it's also very, very more common. When Pete and I first opened our clinic in the year 2000, 21 years ago, we actually didn't realize how incredibly common sexual abuse is, and not just in Tasmania either. It's like Australia-wide, actually worldwide.
It's world. Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at it's really epidemic proportions, and I think has been like this for many generations, so it's not something new. According to the National Centre for Victims of Crime, 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 20 boys will be a victim of child sexual abuse in their lifetime, but it's my personal belief really from what I've seen in my lifetime, that it's more like 1 in 2 women and something like 1 in 4 men has experienced child sexual abuse. So child sexual abuse is really devastating to the child because it's often perpetrated by a family member, more often than not. Like stranger danger isn't even the biggest danger, or it's like a family friend or a neighbor, somebody that the child trusted, and then it really messes up the internal processing of the child, how it sees reality, and of course
the compass is turned
kind
to
of
south instead of north.
That's
often.
right.
Yeah.
So like as an adult, you have your internal compass, that's what we call a moral compass, and every human being is born with a moral compass intact, pointing nicely towards north. But when children have suffered abuse, and this of course is mental, physical, emotional, spiritual abuse or sexual abuse, it's like their compass doesn't point true north anymore, and so it's really hard for people to find your direction in life, right? So often for people who've been abused as adults, when something feels good to them, it's actually bad for them.
Often.
And when it feels bad, they think it's good for them, right? So it's like their instincts are really, really messed up in life. It's way more complicated.
Children think of sexual abuse as how the adults have loved them.
Yeah.
They think it as love, so that'll continue on in their
inappropriate
adult,
behavior and response.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what Pete was saying before is really, really interesting too. So when a child has endured incredible pressure, like the wrong kind of pressure, what happens is the personality splits itself. So it splits off, and it can split in many, it can sometimes create hundreds of splits. And it doesn't have to be full-blown personality disorder or schizophrenia or anything like that. I actually think pretty much everyone has multiple personalities, right? Definitely
Well,
Pete and I do.
multiple parts anyway.
Yeah.
That you
Well,
you go into, and you can't think the same as what you do when
that's right.
in another
Sometimes
part.
you catch yourself behaving sort of in a really incongruent way, and you think, well, why are you behaving like that? You think, well, what's going on? I can't stop it. So that's literally when one of your unwanted parts that you hid as a child to stay alive, that's taking over. And I've seen it in Pete. Pete used to have many parts that caused him to be a bit hostile, well, to me anyway, or, depressed or moody. And so, but we've done so much work with each other, in ourselves, and with our clients, and it really, really pays off, because actually, this is another really important point that most people don't know. Your immune system, so this is the part of your body that keeps you healthy, that fights cancer cells, that rejuvenates your body, so we call that your immune system, is never older than your 7-year-old inner child. Excuse me. So like I might be 59, but my immune system literally has the consciousness of a 7 or 8-year-old girl, and it's the same for Pete, it's the same for you. It doesn't matter how old you are, your immune system has the consciousness of that inner child. That's why we call it inner child issues. So even for your physical health, if you're struggling with chronic pain or cancer or other chronic health issues, we always have to look at what went on for you in your childhood.
Often if there are stuck traumas that haven't been dealt with properly, they keep you in a state of flight and fright, so the adrenal glands are working overtime, and it takes a lot of energy to really keep on top of all the stuck traumas, suppressed emotions associated with childhood traumas.
That's right.
Yeah.
like no man, you can drink 100 cups of chamomile tea. I've got one here actually. You know, it's just hard work for your body to find a beautiful place of relaxation again. Actually, there are many people who walk around with a nervous system that literally hasn't been relaxed properly for decades. For decades, because the body doesn't remember anymore what it feels like to be relaxed. So
I've got a client comes to me and he can't relax. He can't. His muscles are always tense. I tell him to release his arm so it goes all floppy, and it won't.
Yeah, because it wasn't safe for him as a little boy. So I'll just reel off some symptoms. You might think your childhood was absolutely amazing, but it may not be true, right? Because we actually have to look for clues in your life today. Because I used to be like that. I used to. Peter used to say that to Peter, I had the most amazing, wonderful childhood. Right. And actually, I still believe it's true. Like, my parents really loved us, and I was very, very lucky in many ways with my childhood. And then I married Pete really young, and then I was really lucky again. Because when I was 19,
sometimes.
I married him and we had 6 children. I really have had a wonderful life. Okay, now this is the surface story, right?
I grew up on a farm. I thought I had a pretty good childhood too.
That's right. So that is the surface story, right? But then we have to look for clues. And look, I did have a weird thing going till about age 40 that I used to have recurrent nightmares. Peter knows this because I used to, it used to wake him up. I had nightmares about my father till I was about 40. And I had, the last time I had a nightmare about him, I actually dreamt that I was standing up to him. I was literally bashing him up. I was giving him a hiding. And then after that, I never had another nightmare. Do you remember that, Pete? And because I used to wake him up, because I used to have noisy nightmares, like scream and stuff, right? Well, that's not actually the nervous system of a happy person, right, is it? So even I had real big trouble admitting that I had issues in my tissues with my father, because I thought he was a wonderful man, if you know what I mean. And then the next thing that happened was, of course, when I was in my early 40s, not long after my nightmare stopped, I got hit by a truck. Very symbolic, all this. It was driven by a Dutch driver who was pretty uncouth, actually. Just crashed into me, left me for dead, and didn't apologize or anything like that. So then I thought, well, hang on a minute, there is a pattern going here, right? And also your issues are always in your tissues. So what does it mean when you end up with lots of broken bones and internal bleeding and you name it? Because broken bones are always symbolic of hidden anger, so suppressed anger. When you have a lot of anger in your body but you've disconnected from it, you will end up breaking a bone. So I had many fractures and then internal bleeding. That's to do with losing your joy, because blood is always to do with joy, and it's to do with sadness, and I mean the list goes on, and we'll talk about it. But I wrote a book about it, which many of you have seen it, and I called it You Are the Miracle, because everyone, of course, is much bigger than our biggest trauma, if I can say it like that. And that's what this book is all about. I had to go onto a journey of investigation to see what my childhood had been like in reality. I'm just showing you because, and then Peter, he wrote a book about his childhood.
Yeah. I would recommend everyone write their story.
Yeah, I was going to say,
very cathartic.
Yeah. So for Mother's Day, I highly recommend that you perhaps even get these books, because they're good stories. You feel better and can relate to them. And then
and it might spur you on to write your own.
Sarah Ann, who used to be one of our practitioners, she wrote this wonderful book. This is more a how-to book, so this is how you relate to the 7 angels of peace to create peace in your life. This is another one of my friends and colleagues who wrote her story. It's called Divine Breadcrumbs, Following Your Inner Breadcrumbs. And this is a book written by another colleague on the mainland, and it's called Freeing the Unloved Girl. A woman's guide to healing from childhood abuse and conditioning, right? Because abuse isn't always overt, it can be very covert, and that's to do with conditioning. So this is a really practical book as well, if you know somebody who is full of, who has a lot of healing to do. There's some really good tools in our clinic, and also please seek help from Pete and me, because honestly there is nothing that we haven't seen or heard. And also you could even say it's probably almost not a pain that I haven't felt in my own body. And we can really help you, and we do that with very, very fast healing techniques that immediately regulate your nervous system. So I know what it's like to live in a body with a dysregulated nervous system, which is very scary.
It's a very safe place when you're with us, because nothing leaves the room, and quite often we get told things that have never been aired by people before. They've never told anyone else.
But well, nothing leaves the room. Actually, bad energy leaves the room because we specialize in energy medicine in particular. So, but we've also done, NLP, you name it, all types of mindset work, so we can recognize your holding patterns, or we recognize the patterns of stuckness and conditioning. And then we also specialize in sensing where your energy is blocked, so and then we can release that, and we just basically check all that bad energy, which is information where your stories are stuck. We check it into the best state. So people always feel like 10 years or 20 years later by the end of a session.
And it allows a lot more energy for you to have a far better life.
Yeah, positive, happy energy, because literally your energy frequency gets a massive uplift. So you operate on a different frequency, and then you become a magnet for happiness, and for easy and deep and meaningful connections. You feel less triggered. We can also say it in that way, because like childhood issues get stuck inside your body. They even become your, what's the word? Hang on a second. Yeah, I've written it here. What you experienced in your childhood becomes your truth, right? Even if it's not a good truth to base your life on, but you believe that this is how it is.
Usually between the ages of 0 to 6 or 8. That's when we get our beliefs and truths
they cemented
instilled into us. Yeah.
And actually we just copy our parents, right, or our caregivers. It's all unconsciously happens. And our parents copied their parents, and they copied their parents. And so we probably still have the same stuck beliefs and limiting ideas from our forebears 1,000 years ago or something like that. It's actually not that, easy to just evolve in a how do I say it, naturally. I believe all humans need help. We all need help. We need to be shown where we are stuck. We need to be shown where our blind spots are. And so Pete and I can do that very, very easily. So here are some symptoms that can show, maybe that can pinpoint that your childhood wasn't as good as you may believe it was. So the list is something like this. Depression, feeling dissociated, that means out of your body, that you can't fully be inside your body. Anxiety, aggression issues, anger issues, shock or denial, confusion, muscle tension, chronic fatigue, sleep problems, mysterious aches and pains, procrastinating, impulsiveness,
Oh, I've got none of those, have I?
poor memory, feeling out of touch with yourself, poor behavioral control, trust issues, passive aggression, perpetual victimhood, so always feeling a victim, promiscuity, like, or, sleeping around, or having no libido or low libido, or trouble forming deep and meaningful connections, low chronic self-worth, chaotic lifestyle, lack of clarity, poor focus, overeating, other addictive behaviors, and bad luck, and feeling accident prone. So really the one way forward is like to heal it. You have to feel it, right? And you have to get real clarity as well. And so it really is almost impossible to do that without help from an expert. And why would you wait anyway? Because like when you have an expert, you can literally compress maybe 50 years of slow learning into 1 or 2 sessions, and then you're free to move forward, and people will remark how young you look and how different you are and how amazing.
And a lot of the time you don't have to remember the things that caused the problem.
No, because we actually find it anyway.
And you don't have to tell us.
No.
In other words, if you don't want to.
No, so the sessions are not scary at all, I promise. They actually make you feel really, really good. So it's not like going to the dentist. Although going to the dentist, it feels alright these days too.
You usually leave a lot lighter.
Yeah.
So you've left a lot.
And one other thing, Peter, and I forgot to mention, is that when you're a child, the child, which is still your inner child, by the way, children always believe they caused stuff, like they were at fault, it was their fault. So if you have a lot of blame and shame in your body and you don't know, how come it's there, it's usually because there was some sort of trauma when you were 2 or 3 and you've forgotten what actually happened.
Even if your parents split up when you were young, you'll often blame yourself. So if you're in a situation where you've got children, make sure that you tell them that it's not their fault and it wasn't your fault.
Well, they just need a lot of reassurance, but I just want to say you need to release that blame and shame, because children just think they're at cause of everything. For instance, let's say if grandma dies and the child was wearing stripy pajamas at the moment that the child heard grandma has died, she might think it's the fault of my pajamas, I shouldn't have worn those jammies or something like that. And so like some of that energy will go into the body. So this is just how children think, because it's not logical, and trauma isn't logical, and emotions are also not logical. But the fact is, it causes a pain body that gets stuck in your body. So and the point of life is to be happy, healthy, for you to live an abundant life, and also for you not to perpetuate any generational trauma. So that's what Pete and I always feel like. It stops with us, even though of course we've made lots of mistakes too, because we're humans, right? Every parent makes mistakes. It doesn't matter how hard you try not to, it just comes with the territory. But it's all about being aware of what's going on, right? And having that awareness, having that openness. So in an open and safe space, these issues can find healing, so you can find peace and your body can recover.
And you can move forward.
Anyway, so I'm hoping that you found this interesting, and if you know of anyone who is stuck in pain or trauma or whatever, or just stuck in some way and not moving forward, it's always to do with like trauma. You need to become trauma informed, and that's what we're here to help you for. We also have lots of products, and like I said, we have these books that might make a good Mother's Day present. I'm in the middle of finishing my second book, so hopefully my second book will be published, will be out on the shelves by the end of the year, I'm hoping.
And I may even write another chapter of my life at some point.
So there's always more to learn and more to share, and really hope that you find it interesting. And thank you for tuning in, everyone. And over the course of the month of April, which is to do with child abuse, take extra good care of yourself. Be generous with yourself. Tell you if you have children, go the extra mile and just love them up, and create awareness. Start noticing how your parenting style is, but also have compassion on yourself. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, have a good week.
Let us know how you get on, and we hope that you have a really, really good week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.